I don't think it's too much out of our pockets for that. And that would also help out with the policing of this. Another part is 6-foot fence minimum. Backyard grows should be in the backyard, should not be visible from the streets. Realistically, if we could go to Rite Aid, if we had a collective here, I would be more than willing to try to purchase it within my Social Security income. You know, I'm not for it, I'm not against it, but it does help me, and I see that we've got plenty of growers here. We're not young children in here, we're all adults. I believe that we can come to an understanding and be satisfactory for the police department, for the citizens. I don't believe that these should have 2 aggressive pit bulls that should be even near street areas anyways. If you do have dogs, keep them contained in a bigger pin fence. I believe that as far as smell, so it's not so offensive, we should have a setback from the property lines. So, you know, but once again, star jasmine is my sister's poison. Neighbors grow it all around her. We've got to keep the house sealed up. She's on oxygen most of the time. You know, we can't, you know, make the neighbors tear it down. So I feel that we should all, you know, just respect each other's rights, and I'm pretty sure we can come to an agreement. And, my problem is with Annie. I grow in Annie's. I'm one of her patients that grows with her. I have a park and a child care center right next to me. I don't feel it's right to grow that close. I know that the state has their required setbacks. The county doesn't specify it under the ordinance, but I'm sure that they would stand strong. You don't want it next to your parks or child development centers or anything like that. I think that there should be, you know, regulatory setbacks. If we can comply with this, have a registered garden, you're more than welcome to come and do our counts. I think another part of this is the reason why some of these growths are so big. A lot of people aren't very informed about it, but it is coming out in big forms of concentrates, edibles, honeys, elixirs, oils, stuff that people won't even smell. And we can, you know, take our medications without imposing upon other people. I don't smoke it personally. I eat a lot of edibles. I do the vaporizers, which David has showed you. You know, it's basically because I don't smoke cigarettes, and I don't feel like I should have those extra carcinogenics. But we do have to grow the product in order to make our medicine. To go down to the Bay Area, to Sacramento, to buy this, it's a $300 trip in fuel, let alone the cost of buying the concentrates and stuff. And the expense of, you know, these clubs down there, they charge way too much. Myself, if I couldn't grow it, most likely I'd have a stroke or a heart attack. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Told Mr. Meggins he could speak again, so. Yes, please.
In looking through the proposed ordinance, there's a little clause in here about all materials related to cultivation shall be contained and concealed within the allowable structure. Am I to understand that that means stems and leaves and such? The law does not.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The law does not distinguish between usable and stems and leaves. If all that's added together, that's a sizable amount of stuff in there. It can, you know, it can have 10, 20 pounds, but only a pound or a half pound of something smokable. The rest of it, there's no provision to be able to eliminate the scuff, the seeds, or the stems and the leaves. We have to contain it within inside the structure, and you come and look in the structure and weigh it. Oh man, Steve's got 20 pounds here, but it's not usable. Okay, so I'm a little concerned that if this were to go into effect, we'd be setting ourselves up for being busted for having a large amount because there is no distinction between smokable and stem. And it's really not a hazardous material. I mean, it could go out with the rest of the garbage and not hurt anybody.
Can I clarify? So you're saying the current proposed, well, the proposed ordinance that I proposed a few weeks ago says that everything has to be in the enclosed structure, the allowable structure, and that is too stringent.
I'm saying that when you do that, person grows, harvests, they've got to keep all their scuff. Scuff is leaves that aren't smokable.
So they need to be allowed to store that in other places, dispose of it, take it in the house.
Dispose of it, get rid of it, take it, whatever it needs to, because then we're putting ourselves in a position to where you got 10 pounds when there's really only a half pound of smokable, the rest of it's scuff. Scuff is unsmokable materials.
So you think the ordinance
But
says
the
you can't
state,
throw it
the
away?
law does not, the state law does not make a distinction between scuff and smokable materials. So then it puts us in a position of having a whole bunch of stuff that we can be prosecuted for when very little of it is medical, most of it is waste.
Okay.
There's much more waste in the process than there is smokable, and I have a real concern about it.
Thank you for clarifying
In
that.
fact,
Yes, ma'am. No, right behind you, I'm sorry. Raise your hand. Oh, come on. No, not again.
you okay?
My name is Mother Noyes, and I'm with Lassen County Public Health. I'm actually the person who does the medical marijuana state identification cards. So there is a system in place that will identify who you are, and basically the process is for you to come in with your recommendation, proper identification and proof that you live here in Lassen County, and then what I do with that information is I confirm that your medical provider actually has a license to practice medicine in the state of California, and then I confirm that who you are with your identification, and then I actually contact your doctor and confirm that he has in fact given you the recommendation. I fax a copy of the recommendation over to them, and I have someone from their office sign off on it. It doesn't have to be the doctor again, he's busy. The process is pretty simple. I'm the only one who knows who you are. The state does not get any identification information from you. All of that is kept, well, I do have a person who is assisting me because I have another program through the health department, so she too would know who you are. Otherwise, I upload your picture and I put it through the computer, and I'm sent a card with your picture on it and a random identification card number that the officer, I don't think I brought one with me, but the officer is able to log on to the web and confirm that it's either valid or not valid, and it'll show them the expiration date. It's a pretty official card. It would be hard to duplicate, and I have never had anyone apply for the card that I didn't feel was 100% legit. I have, however, heard on the street, because I also have 4 children, that, many of these kids take these recommendations and just white it out and make copies and fill in their own information to it, and now how are these police officers supposed to know the difference? I mean, honestly, I have one biological daughter, one stepson who decided to go over to Dr. Marshall, and my daughter simply said, my knee hurts. And she was able to get the recommendation. I was not happy. My stepson went in and said, oh yeah, my mom, she does the cards. And he gave him the card. I was like,
They're
not
money.
okay with that.
But there's a law against that.
I do know that. It is hard to report a provider unless you're actually a patient of the provider through the medical board. As a parent, you just can't call in and report it. Trust me, I have looked into it. You have to be a patient in order to sign off your privacy, HIPAA, for the medical board to actually go in and take a look at things. If any of you happen to be a patient of Dr. Marshall's or whomever in the area and don't feel that things are 100% going okay, I suggest that you file a report, and with the Attorney General's office as well, to at least, identify the people who are legit and who are not.
Now, if a parent finds out that their child got a prescription without their consent, can't they file a report?
With the Lassen County Public Health, a parent can actually sign off on a child to receive a card. And to my knowledge, medical cannot be provided to a child except for a few incidences like STDs and things like that, unless a parent's signature is authorized.
But if they get one
Ms. Noyes?
illegally,
How will this benefit the discussion of regulating the cultivation of medical marijuana in the city of Susanville?
Well,
I appreciate you speaking to us, but how will that help us?
I think that maybe it would give the officers the ability to be able to verify who is authorized and who isn't.
So you're encouraging, maybe as part of the regulation, that they're required to register and obtain their 215 cards? If we had an ordinance that required registration of grows, then a portion of that requirement would be that they would have to get the card that the county issues.
There is a thing with the Attorney General's office that says you could do a city
Oh, boy.
card, but
We would
why,
rather-
right, why take?
I've already bitten off more than I can chew.
Yeah,
It'll take a couple of years, I think we worked out, a couple of years to do that
Yeah,
one.
come on.
Why create another system when you already have one in place?
Yes, and
You know,
one that
so,
seems to be successful.
Now, there
How
are
much,
two,
how much does the card cost?
well, for a non-Medi-Cal client, it would be $150. For someone who has Medi-Cal, and I'm sure I could count in Medicare through Social Security, it would be $117. We could certainly
We
go
already paid
to,
over $100 for a prescription.
right
Now,
now,
is that annually?
it is annually.
So they have to pay $100 annually to get the card.
Of course, everything's probably reapproachable to the board. but these are-
how long does the car last?
For 1 year.
Mhm.
See, I go to an outfit called Medican, and they have their own doctor who's accredited, and it only costs me about $100 to get the prescription and the card.
I'm not sure that you understand exactly what I do.
Oh, I do.
Right,
That's a
I'm
county
actually
issue.
validating,
County issue.
I'm validating you. I'm giving you basically a get out of jail free card.
Well,
Okay.
But so,
As long as everything's in,
I like it.
as long as everything's legit.
but
I
so
mean,
does the other place. My card is good the whole state.
but it's not doing anything to help these guys know the difference.
No, I understand that, and I
Right.
would be more than willing if I found a doctor here who would give me the script.
I can honor
No,
his,
it's not that.
To go through your office.
no, I can honor his script. As long as he is a medical provider, I can honor
Okay.
his license and his
Right.
recommendation to you. Anywhere from the state of California.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a provider here locally. So basically, all you're doing is coming in and paying a fee for me to say, yes, this has not been carbon copied and provided by the 16-year-old down the street.
I know.
And if that would help the city regulate it, I don't really have a problem with that.
Right?
Well, there's seals also. If you go to the doctor, they give you seals. They stamp the seal or they
can
give
make
you the
those.
gold seal.
Yeah.
I work for a corporate, I work for a corporate office that
Talking about the
had the
seal?
seals made.
Yeah.
But see, in addition to just the card and having it in your back pocket, you also have me. Much as I was surprised to
And
look and
that'd
see
be-
my phone
that's
number
kinda
on
like
each card,
me.
but they have me they can call and they can log on to the state website and confirm 24 hours a day that it's legit.
It's kind of a lot, but it's still the same.
Well, it makes sense.
Paying to
Well, if we
have-
didn't have to pay the license of plant,
Most
we
of our
had to do that.
recommendations.
I would rather
Either
do
way, I'd
that.
rather do that than
Right.
move the plant.
Right.
On most of our recommendations we have from our doctors, there's a stamp seal and there's a 24-hour verification number on
Right.
it for the police department to verify what is relevant to your certification over this.
I have never called to confirm a recommendation and actually been able to confirm it right then, right there.
I have.
I have not.
And that's-
You can call mine right now and you can't get verified.
I'm just telling you my experience.
so
So
what
what
she's,
you're saying is that you're gonna reissue, what, a state card?
no, she issues county cards at the state. Remember, the state come out with the 215 card that they wanted, and they pushed to all counties to
It's a
be
voluntary
required.
program.
It's required that we have a program, but it's voluntary that you register.
Right.
That's why all of you in the room are not registered, and I'm not arresting you today because it's voluntary. Just kidding. But it's voluntary. So she's coming to tell you about her program to register, which then gives you, I would disagree that gives you a get out of jail free
If it's
card.
legit.
I would say that it gives you another level of
Right.
protection
Yeah.
or legitimacy that your card is valid. And I think she brings value to the conversation by saying, city, another way to show that the grows that are growing are valid is that you require them to go get a card, whether you agree or not with her program. That if I created an ordinance and it was approved, that it included that you would have to go get a card. So when we come check your script, we would have to see your card and we'd have to see your plans. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with her. I'm just trying to clarify what I think she's saying tonight.
I got that.
So, yes, sir.
But if you ban outdoor grows, she offers no protection. That's just a waste of everybody's time.
She doesn't have a get out of jail free card, I'm telling you.
If you ban outdoor grows, that offers no
There's
protection.
no law against it, right?
It offers no protection.
And is the card, isn't the registration and getting the medical card yet not required by law, but what it does is that if I get arrested without the card, I end up doing the whole court thing. The card shows the police that I do have a medical,
Yes.
and that prevents the embarrassment of going to court and the cops having to back off of it because I've got the card. Meanwhile, they've torn out my crop, they're gonna give it back to me half-grown and not usable for anything. It's a level of protection for
You're absolutely right.
the individual, but it is not required by law to have that card.
You are right.
There's
You
very
spoke it very well.
specific guidelines, and if you'd like to come into the health department and take a
I
look
will
at the
come in and look
guidelines,
at
you're
that.
more than welcome to come by. So,
Registering with you would be kind of like me saying of the plants, you know, of the
Yes.
fee on the plants. That would actually be a better idea, you know. I'd have no problem coming in and showing my recommendations so you guys know, hey, if you guys had an idea of where all these grows were, and all of a sudden, you guys got computers, I don't know if you got computers in your car, or how you got cars work, but, or even in the office, you can type in and you can work with her and say, okay, these are where these grows.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Slama. If I came to your house and you showed me a recommendation, I have no way of validating that recommendation on the scene, except for the gentleman who said I could call 24 hours a day.
That's-
The majority of the recommendations, I have no way to validate whether they're legal or not. Through her program, through the county's program she ministers, that is already validation that your recommendation is valid, because she does the background work before
That'd be just like
we arrive.
registering our
So it
vehicles.
is a level of security and
Protection
safety, it's
for it.
protection.
one thing that
And-
you may
and
not be
that
aware
saves
of,
everybody else in town. I mean,
one thing you may not be aware of is there are guidelines for, say you are in the process of criminal prosecution for something. One would think that, oh, you couldn't get a 215 card then. Yes, you can. Okay, it has to be written into some of the court things, like if you're on probation or parole, or things like that. It's all written into the guidelines around the cards. There's just extra documentation that has to go along with it. So the guidelines are pretty in-depth, and anyone's welcome to come and take a look at them. And
Then where does that money go to that everybody pays to you though?
it goes into realignment,
It goes into the county.
yeah, the realignment funds.
So my question is, if we all agree to do this and this became an ordinance, would this be a way for you to weed out the minors being able to get it without their parents' consent? Would you be able to validate through their parents that it's legal?
Well, the only thing that I would have to do with that is if a minor came in and tried to apply for the 215 card.
Right.
Okay, at that point in time, I would have to see proof that that someone was their parent that agreed to it. So unless it came to my front door, I wouldn't address it. However, if they didn't have the documentation or the card, then these guys would be able to tell the difference.
Right, that's my point.
It sounds to me that she would check for parental consent.
Oh,
To say
absolutely.
yes, the answer would
And I
be
would not process it, my director would.
so then she wouldn't have a card, or
Right.
the minor wouldn't have a card.
Right,
Right.
And therefore it would be
right,
indicted.
which would be a good way to catch it.
And currently, I think I only follow about 15 people in the entire Lassen County.
You know,
So,
I hope you're not following this.
no, as far as the recommend, the
I'm
processing
a
for
little
the card.
fascinated about this verification thing, because this card I got, you can literally go online and put in my patient ID number and verify. You don't need to talk to anybody 24 hours a day. And I guess I'm naive, I thought they were all that way.
That Green Hills is
Yeah,
mainly
mine's
for
that way, too.
collectives.
Yeah.
That's what that card is for collectives through Green Hills.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
And part of the problem too is, I've heard around town too, Dr. Marshall might give you a script, but he will not verify it.
Right.
You cannot get in
right.
touch with him, that should be wrong, that should be unlawful right there. If you're gonna prescribe it, you should be able to verify it.
All right, attention at the podium, we have a new speaker. Give us your name, sir.
Bill Fireoff.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. I'm not a medical marijuana user or cultivator, but I am very sympathetic to these people. Okay, many years ago, I had to make a choice between pot and guns, and the guns won. I couldn't do both. So, that's where I'm at. But because of my past, I am very sympathetic to these people. A while back, now, I believe the first speaker spoke to feeling like a second-class citizen and not being treated with the respect and dignity that other people are afforded by the officials in the county. Okay, and a few years ago, the county eliminated all the dispensaries in the county. So that left these people with one option, and that's to grow it themselves. And I attended that meeting in Judson Hall, and it was obvious that most of the council members were very antagonistic to these people. They were. Okay? And now, a few weeks ago, I read your proposed ordinance, and I got very upset because it looked like, I thought, okay, there are no more dispensaries, so they have to grow it themselves. But now you're proposing an ordinance that they can't grow it in the house. They can't grow it in an attached garage. They can't grow it outside. You know, they have to build a special building and everything. And frankly, I thought you were another one of those guys. Another one of those not in my town guys. Okay? Now, I've completely changed my opinion about you in this meeting.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm very impressed with you guys. I really am. I had no idea we had a police chief of your confidence level. And I was very pleased to discover that this evening. And I would like to say that I think this is a wonderful first step in the right direction that you've taken here tonight to give these people the respect and dignity they deserve in the community. And I thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the one clap, I appreciate that.
Just remember, it only takes one aw shit to wipe out all your attaboys.
Oh, my father always told me that, too.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes, sir.
The state Supreme Court 4 years ago, there was a case before them on medical marijuana, and they didn't decide on it because they said the law was too vague. And they urged our state legislators to get busy and to make the law uniform, okay? Or yet, legislatures, just like a federal government, they don't do nothing. Nobody's done one thing in 4 years. So what we need to do is bug them to make the law consistent and uniform throughout the state. I shouldn't have to feel like a criminal going from one county to another.
Good comments. Were you wanting to speak, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, give me your name, please.
Oh, it's mine.
I don't want, would you mind sharing your name?
Thomas Watson here.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
I think if none of the other states ever made any other, if they didn't pass laws to legalize marijuana in those states, we would not be here. 18 years later, now we're starting to complain about this. 1996 is when Prop 215 passed. 2 years, 3 years later, California once again went through some other form of gold rush, and you had everybody in America coming here, and everybody, even homeowners, enjoyed the capital gains. They really enjoyed that smell. But sooner or later down the road, somebody's going to abuse the system that's there, and I guess that's why we're here, and that's why you guys are going to try to come up with an ordinance, and that's why the 5 people that sit up there and pass laws do it in the best interest of the community and the residents of Californians. My concern is that this was supposed to be a planning and building, and there's yet nobody from Jared's is going to be here or not be here to hear these things. Then I had a question by your 200 square feet, or 200, I believe it's 200 square feet. Is that 200 square feet or 200 cubic feet? It's one thing to grow in an area, and you can grow as tall as you want, or what's the limit on that?
As presented, it was 200 square feet, as it was presented.
Okay.
I think we can all agree here that as it was presented will not be the same as presented again. There will be some changes. We can just get that out there, but I do not plan on presenting the exact same ordinance to you.
Okay. And, you know, there was a lot of people talking about setbacks and where to grow and not to grow, and if they couldn't actually grow with any kind of, anyway, what I did, I brainstormed, and maybe if there's a possibility to hire a consulting firm that specializes in this to bring more light to it and help assist with this ordinance. And it could be more passive, because right now we're just, we're acting and counter-reacting on personal emotions here. And, you know, you get a third party that's, you know, independent, that has zero interest in there, they probably could shed more light on the subject here. And then the other thing is, you know, the card, personally, here's my emotions, is that I was able to get a card, but then I came to realize, reading the laws, and I'm a reader, and people wanting to pay $25 for plant or $15, and it just seems that this is a profit-making situation here. When we decide to have our organs donated, we don't have to pay a $120 driver's license. You know, we just get a little stamp on the card. You know, and everything's already registered there. So it just seems that everything's in place, and somehow a new system was created for for the end consumer to get you know, pay more. I mean, it's really easy to put like a little green leaf on our IDs or driver's license, and that should suffice enough there. But paying $120 for the card, and I don't know, I feels like I'm paying insurance to people. But, and I suggest that, you know, some of us still have comments that, you know, maybe we should have another meeting like this before it gets, you know, finalized. And our comments, are they gonna be put together, and before they are submitted, is there gonna be a draft that we can review as the people here? That way we can make sure that our statements and our will as the voters of the community is put in place too. So, oh, and the other thing was, is it the growing area, is it gonna be, it required a slab which indicated that everything had to either be in pots, or it was gonna be hydroponics or aquaponics, or, you know, what's gonna happen with that there. So, anyway, that was my 2 cents on the whole matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Let me answer a couple of questions. First, I'm not planning on cataloging all of the comments that occurred today here and presenting them in some fashion to council. That was not my intent. I was going to take the comments that you've presented to me and then digest them and take them in an attempt to come up with another ordinance that, based upon your comments, would be acceptable to the majority of the people that I could obtain to have conversation about this. 1. 2, having an opportunity to review the ordinance again before it's passed. You do have that opportunity. It'll be published at least 1 week before the meeting. Will it come out previous to that? I don't know. I don't get to make that decision, but will we give it to the public? There's a potential for that. At the first council meeting that it is read, all it is waiving the first reading or reading it word for word aloud and allowing it to move forward to the next meeting. That is your opportunity to come and have your concerns heard again in front of the policymakers. That will actually be the ones that vote that in. Hopefully that answers a few of your questions. This meeting is not going to then turn into me providing them something that they sign into law without you actually having at least 2 other opportunities to comment upon.
I'd like to think that's what I was trying to say before, that we have the opportunity, once you've come up with what you might believe would be acceptable, that we have another opportunity to look at that to see if there's anything more to include in it or to exclude, or you follow where I'm coming from? Instead of just writing it, give it to the council, and we get to read it in the newspaper, and then go through, do all this. We might prevent doing all this again.
I see your points, and I'll take that under submission. I'll consider that as we move forward. I think we could, though, have a meeting every time that I rewrote it and never, ever completely agree. So there has to be a point where we have to allow the policymakers to vote.
Understood.
But I take your point in
Okay.
consideration. Thank you, sir.
I had a question. At the last meeting, they mentioned